1 year ago, Sri Lanka ended its battle against the Tamil Tigers after nearly 3 decades of fighting. The government promised a new era of national reconciliation and unity. But critics say that unless the grievances of the minority Tamils are addressed, this country may lose its fragile peace. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we speak with President Mahinda Rajapaksa in his first international interview since the end of the conflict about the future of Sri Lanka. At the end of Sri Lanka's civil war, some 300,000 Tamils were displaced and held in government-run camps. Today, most of them have been released. But as they return home, they are struggling to restore their livelihoods. Chantao Cho reports on the challenges they face.
People who are being released from the camps are not being properly resettled. These are people who led honorable lives. Everything they had has been destroyed. They have been rendered destitute.
Don't forget, it's been only 12 months, 6 months of which had to be spent in demining. The choice was to build good houses or to let them go back as soon as possible.
The end of the conflict with the Tamil Tigers provided a chance to bridge a long-standing divide between Sri Lanka's majority Sinhalese and ethnic Tamils living in the north and east. A divide often seen as a race-based conflict between these communities over unequal social and political rights. The Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, fought for an independent state in these regions. It was declared a terrorist organization by 32 countries. 1 year after fleeing the war, Anandarani is finally going home, but without her 3 sons. 2 of them were killed in the final stages of Sri Lanka's war with the LTTE. As they fled the battle zone, authorities arrested her remaining son on suspicion of being linked to the Tigers. The rest of the family were confined in Manik Farm, a government-run camp for internally displaced people in Sri Lanka's northern district of Vavunia.
What's the point of living after this? It's like death. Our sons are not with us. We have to look after ourselves now.
Their stay in Manik Farm lasted 7 months, while authorities tried to weed out Tamil Tiger cadres from their midst. At its peak, Manik Farm was packed with nearly 300,000 refugees. Today, some 30,000 are left, free to come and go on day passes. Anandarani's family was released last December, but they couldn't go home. Security forces were demining their hometown Mullaitivu. They spent the last 5 months living under tarpaulin sheets.
I had to leave Manik Farm so that I could search for my lost son. He's 21 years old and his name is Dhananjayan. The army arrested him when we crossed the Omantai checkpoint.
His whereabouts remain unknown. Today, the family is among more than 1,000 Mullaitivu residents registered to return from Vavunia. Ahead of them, a sweltering 4-hour bus ride.
We're really happy to go back. We're looking forward to living at home, drinking from our well, cooking and eating at home. Even if there's no food, going home is the best thing to do.
These people know Mullaitivu was heavily shelled in the final days of the war. Topmost on their minds, what kind of lives are they returning to? The nearby town of Kilinochchi, once the administrative center of the Tamil Tigers, gives an idea. This family returned from Manik Farm last December. One family member was killed in the shelling, another lost her toes. In the past months, they've been living in mud huts, surviving on odd jobs.
We had a big house, 2 rooms, a veranda, a hall, a separate kitchen, a proper roof. We built brick walls and cement walls. It was home big enough for a family of 12. When we returned from Manik Farm, we were shocked. There was nothing left. We built the house by working hard, weeding paddy fields. We scrimped and saved. We were shattered to see what was left.
They were given the equivalent of $40 and some household tools to get back on their feet. The government also built them these mud huts with tin sheets for roofs.
We have no toilet and we have to share a well with our neighbor. We're given dry rations. It's a hard life. During the day, it's hard to stay indoors because the tin sheets they used for the roofs make the huts very hot. It's like a fire burning over our heads. It makes me ill.
The lack of infrastructure is apparent everywhere. The Tamil Tigers blew up this water tower as they pulled out of Kilinochchi. It is a stark reminder of the sheer scale of rebuilding the government faces. Taking out the de facto capital of the Tamil Tigers turned out to be a critical turning point for the Sri Lankan army to eventually win the war. Today, the greater challenge ahead for the government would be to win the peace by building up trust with the people in this region whose lives have suffered from the fighting.
I'm old. My life will be over soon. If not today, maybe another day. I hope the government helps our younger generations have a better future.
That also means schools need better support. This year, Kilinochchi Central College started operating temporarily from a blown-up building after it was forced to shut down for more than a year due to the war. Most of the teachers come from Kilinochchi, but their homes are not ready for them to return to. They travel 1.5 hours by bus every morning to teach. They can see how the war has affected some of the students.
From our school, as I know, 62 students were conscripted by the LTT for their war activities. And nearly 45, 45 are dead. Psychologically, they have suffered, because of this war. So we feel guidance or the proper counseling should be given.
But teachers say they are encouraged when parents register their kids within days after returning to Kilinochchi from IDP camps.
Most of the students lost their parents and even their siblings, and they have lost everything due to this war. And actually they are eager to learn their studies. They want to study more.
And if you are to move from post-war to post-conflict, we have to ensure that we address the sources of conflict. We cannot sustain them, and we certainly mustn't reproduce them. What was the cause of the ethnic conflict initially was not the demand for power sharing, but the fact that there was no power sharing, and that the Tamils were effectively excluded from all powers of governance.
We have had the Tamil issue, which has, because of the strength of the diaspora, turned into a racial issue, but it was almost a class, a geographical deprivation issue.
The crux of the issue today, how to devolve power from Colombo and allow Tamils in the north and east greater control over their own lives.
We are concerned about law and order. We are concerned about resources in our territory, like land. We want to have adequate power in these areas.
Whatever powers you devolve, there must be some powers at the center, and in particular those that relate to security. Not only military and internal security, but financial security, ultimately food security.
If economic development is seen by the people in those areas as being mega development projects which don't answer to their needs with regard to land, with regard to farming, with regard to fishing, then we're only sustaining the sources of conflict.
We can't give them political rights if they don't have economic self-sufficiency, if they're dependent.
But is economic self-sufficiency enough to reconcile a nation fractured by nearly 3 decades of fighting? That's the social experiment playing out in Sri Lanka today, one that comes with big stakes.
Coming up after the break, we speak with Sri Lanka's President Mahinda Rajapaksa in his first international interview since the end of the country's civil war. He outlines the challenges of uniting a war-torn nation. Stay with 101 East. Welcome back to 101 East. This week we are in Sri Lanka as the nation celebrates its first anniversary after the end of the near 30-year civil war. Speaking exclusively to us now is President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. 1 year on after declaring victory over the Tamil Tigers, how do you think your country is doing?
Now people are moving freely to north, from north to south, from south to north. So people are mixing. So they do their businesses. People are getting used to each other. They have started to trust each other. So this is the only process that we can depend on.
But a year on, you may have ended the war. Some people, though, are saying that you have not actually addressed the grievances that started the war in the first place. The Tamil community still feels marginalized. How do you go about addressing such an issue?
I don't agree with that, because some politicians are making this issue, or some NGOs. Now if you go to the camps and if you ask them, what do you want first? They will say, I want my house back. I want a job. I want to educate my children. They will not ask for anything else. So, first what we must do is, we must resettle all these people, give them the facilities, give them the things that are enjoyed by others in the south. Why not? So, let them enjoy that first. Then the people will, now they have elected their own representatives to parliament, to provincial councils. So let them, now we can discuss with them. We can have a dialogue.
What do you then say to the Tamil diaspora that are overseas that say you are not doing anything for the Tamil community?
Unfortunately, this is the problem, because they don't want to come back to Sri Lanka. They are enjoying them. They have never visited Jaffna. They have never visited beyond Colombo, I would say, to the north. They don't know the problems of the people. They have not met the people. They have not discussed with them. Now I am meeting the common man, whether in Jaffna or in Trincomalee or Batticaloa. When I go, I speak to the ordinary people, to masses. But find out from these people whether they have been to Jaffna, whether they have gone to Kilinochchi.
You now have Tamil groups who say that they want representation. You have Tamil politicians who say that they want bigger representation of the community. How can you trust these people?
No, I will trust. I mean, I trust them. They have to trust us also. I trust them. So that's why I call them for a dialogue with me. Otherwise, I won't have, because I know that most of these politicians who supported the Tiger movement, the terrorists, they represented them in parliament. But now it's up to us. So we have called them. They have to come back. They must understand our difficulties also.
Which are?
So I mean, the government difficulties. And they must compromise. They have to compromise. I mean, we are ready to compromise. Because for me, whether they are Tamil, Muslim or Sinhalese, is immaterial.
You inherited this long drawn out war. You ended this war. Do you think, in your mind, was it inevitable to lose that many civilian lives, especially towards the end of the war?
I denied it because we never killed any civilians.
You can categorically, confidently say that the Sri Lankan army never targeted civilians?
No.
How sure are you? How can you be that sure? It's a war.
It's a war, it's all right. But the way the people came to decide, to the government controlled areas, you can see otherwise, if Sri Lankan army acted in a different way against the civilians, they would have never trusted us. They wouldn't have walked into our camps. They just walked into our camps, 300,000 people. So that shows that our army, they trusted our army. They trusted our army, otherwise they would have walked in. I mean, this is why I am saying this.
If you are so confident that the Sri Lankan army did not commit any crimes or war crimes during the conflict, why not allow for an independent body to come in and make their own independent investigation?
This is the internal matter. I mean, I don't want my internal matters to be inquired by any other country or any other NGOs. So we will look after that. That's why I have appointed a commission. So if there is any violations, we will see.
So you're saying that this commission you've appointed will investigate alleged war crimes?
No, I mean, if there is anything like that, they will come and complain to us. Then we will inquire into it.
Will you take action against those who committed these alleged war crimes?
Yes, certainly.
Even if they're on your side, even if they're connected to you?
If it is a crime, whether if I did do, whether it is my relation, my army commander or anybody, it's immaterial. It's a crime. Crime is a crime. So we have to punish them. So we can't punish a person for defeating terrorism. So if the international community wants to punish Sri Lanka for defeating terrorism, I'm not for that.
You can understand the international community's concern, though. If you have an internal investigation, a government that is investigating itself, yes, in terms of, I mean, where is the transparency? How can we be assured that it will be fair and just and transparent?
You don't ask that from the Americans. You don't go and ask that from the British or any other country about Iraq or Afghanistan or what is happening in Pakistan. This is, I mean, be fair with us. Be fair with us. Don't treat Sri Lanka because we are like this because we defeated terrorism. Unfortunately, other countries couldn't defeat terrorism yet, though we have done that.
Earlier this year, you had an overwhelming electoral victory, and so did some of your family members as well. Now, some of your family members are in very high positions in your cabinet. You have brothers in the economic development post, in the defense secretary post, as Speaker of Parliament. There are some 300 other relations who do occupy important government. You can see from the outside world, you can see from the outside that...
So who gave that figures? 300 relations in my... I will tell you, the whole country is related to me. I must tell you, whole country.
It's a huge family.
Huge family.
But you can see how there is the accusation of nepotism against you because your family members are in very high positions here. There is the accusations that
they have been elected by the people. So you think that the people
and appointed into very important positions here.
No, only one. Now he is a minister. So tell me, how many? He is a minister. Then I have appointed Gotabaya as the defense secretary. Yes.
That's a very important position that you've
so why
appointed
not?
it to.
I have to trust my defense secretary.
And the only person you can trust is those in your family?
Huh?
The only person you can trust
No,
to be in
no,
charge of
I
the
have-
defense is your
no,
family
I mean,
member?
He is capable, and he has shown that he is capable, right? And I can trust him, so why not?
What do you then say to critics who say that you are now building the Rajapaksa political dynasty?
I won't. Why should I? It's up to the people. People are electing them. What can I do about it? When they don't want them, they will kick them out. All Rajapaksas will be kicked out. So they have to deliver. If Rajapaksas are delivering, what else they want?
Will you be changing the constitution to get rid of the president's term limit?
It's up to the parliament.
Are you in favor of such
I don't
amendments?
mind whether it's presidential system or the prime ministerial system. I have no problem because I'm going to win again.
You're confident of
Yes,
winning
so
again.
much, yes.
Why do you say that? Why are you so confident that you will win again?
People will trust me. I know that people will trust me. When I asked for 2/3 majority, they gave me.
It has been said that you have no tolerance towards any form of opposition. Any form of political opposition.
No,
What do you say to that?
I completely reject that. This is all propaganda.
By whom?
By the opposition. By the opposition and the NGOs who had been paid by some of these other organizations.
Going forward, and as Sri Lanka tries to rebuild itself coming out of this near 30-year war, and reconciliation, as you say, is trying to take place, what do you think is the biggest obstacle that faces your people?
We have to build that trust as soon as possible, and it's building up. This is the challenge that we are ready to take. So, as you know, after 30 years, we took that challenge to defeat terrorism. So we took that challenge and won. Now it is the economic development. So we take that challenge and do that. But within 1 year, we resettle the people. 90% had been resettled. So within December, everyone will be resettled in this country.
Mr. President, thank you for speaking with us. And that's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East from the team here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Thanks for watching.